Channel's Week in Review. At the United Nations, world leaders discuss the Middle East, what made these Jewish mathematicians special, and after 30 years on Broadway, she has some big productions to show for it. It's the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Week in Review. Hello and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had some strong words for the United Nations on Tuesday, discussing Iran's nuclear development program. Here's some of what he had to say.
Now I know, Rouhani doesn't sound like Ahmadinejad. But when it comes to Iran's nuclear weapons program, the only difference between them is this. Ahmadinejad was a wolf in wolf's clothing. Rouhani is a wolf in sheep's clothing. A wolf who thinks he can pull the wool over the eyes of the international community. Why would a country that claims to only want peaceful nuclear energy, why would such a country build hidden underground enrichment facilities? Why would a country with vast natural energy reserves invest billions in developing nuclear energy? Why would a country intent on merely civilian nuclear programs continue to defy multiple Security Council resolutions and incur the tremendous cost of crippling sanctions on its economy? And why would a country with a peaceful nuclear program develop intercontinental ballistic missiles whose sole purpose is to deliver nuclear warheads? Why would they do all this? The answer is simple. Iran is not building a peaceful nuclear program. Iran is developing nuclear weapons.
Netanyahu's speech was almost an afterthought in American news that was mostly focused on the domestic developments relating to the government shutdown. Last week was really the headline week at the United Nations, and President Barack Obama took that opportunity to deliver a key address about his administration's approach to the Middle East and North Africa. On the topic of Israel and Palestine, the president spoke of the experiences he gained from a trip there earlier this year.
We are also determined to resolve a conflict that goes back even further than our differences with Iran, and that is the conflict between Palestinians and Israelis. I've made it clear that the United States will never compromise our commitment to Israel's security, nor our support for its existence as a Jewish state. Earlier this year in Jerusalem, I was inspired by young Israelis who stood up for the belief that peace was necessary, just, and possible. And I believe there's a growing recognition within Israel that the occupation of the West Bank is tearing at the democratic fabric of the Jewish state. But the children of Israel have the right to live in a world where the nations assembled in this body fully recognize their country, and where we unequivocally reject those who fire rockets at their homes or incite others to hate them. Likewise, the United States remains committed to the belief that the Palestinian people have a right to live with security and dignity in their own sovereign state.
The president also spoke at length about the Iranian nuclear situation amid what has been a thawing of U.S.-Iranian relations. After Obama's speech, the Iranian Foreign Minister and Secretary of State John Kerry met in what was the highest-level meeting between Iranians and Americans in more than a decade. The president and Iranian President Hassan Rouhani also spoke by phone afterward, the first direct conversation between the U.S. and Iranian presidents since 1979. But for those trying to figure out the complicated equations of U.S.-Iranian and Israeli-Palestinian negotiations, you might feel like you need an advanced degree. Well, for Jewish mathematicians who perhaps never got their chance in the spotlight in pre-war Germany, a new museum exhibit takes a look at their problem-solving powers, as Christian Needon reports.
The new exhibition, Transcending Tradition, Jewish Mathematicians in German-Speaking Academic Culture, highlights the history of the German-Jewish contribution to mathematics. The traveling exhibition, which originated in Germany, opened this week at the Leo Baeck Institute and Yeshiva University Museum with a talk by Hungarian mathematician Peter Lax and a chance for visitors to peruse the new show as well as touch it. A variety of user-friendly features in the exhibition seek to make learning about the history of German Jewish mathematicians fun and engaging. But that history was fraught with obstacles for Jewish academics in pre-war Germany.
For a long time, of course, Jews were not allowed to participate in the academic life in any discipline. Mathematics, especially in the German states, was one of those scientific fields where a participation of Jews was possible rather early on in the 19th century, and where this participation was highly successful.
The idea for the exhibition was adapted from one that first appeared at the annual conference of the German Mathematical Society, held in Bonn in fall of 2006, when organizers asked a few historians of mathematics if they would put together an exhibition about the success stories of German Jewish mathematicians before the Nazis came to power. And the resulting exhibition makes clear that in the field of mathematics, German Jews enjoyed some rare equal standing and produced great results.
From, say, the last third of the 19th century to the first third of the 20th, so before 1933, was a period of cooperation between Jews and non-Jews, was a period in which a tremendous scientific success was possible by disregarding religious barriers of tradition, of nationality even. It was a liberal culture, a culture in which this abstract and at the same time universal science of mathematics was jointly developed across boundaries. And of course, by giving this message, you also evoke the sorrow that one has to have for the destruction of all this wonderful culture.
To see more from Transcending Tradition, Jewish Mathematicians in German-Speaking Academic Culture, please tune into the full broadcast edition of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. To keep performing at a high level throughout a 30-year career, you need a lot of determination and a lot of inspiration. Some who need inspiration to keep pushing forward might find that in the film story of Rocky. And that story is about to hit the Broadway stage in musical form, something that couldn't have happened without one Jewish lyricist whose 30-year career was recently the subject of a gala celebration. Meredith Gansman has that story.
Believe it or not, Rocky, who's well known for running the steps of the Philadelphia Art Museum, is hitting Broadway this spring. With music by songwriting team Ahrens and Flaherty, Rocky is the newest production in a 30-year partnership.
This year, for some weird reason, it just feels not only like a culmination of a terrific run, but you know, it's like the beginning of the next phase. So we're excited.
It's great.
That run began when composer Stephen Flaherty and Jewish lyricist Lynn Ahrens met in a songwriting class. At the time, Ahrens was then a jingle writer and performer, best known for connecting conjunctions in Schoolhouse Rock.
Conjunction, junction, how's that function?
And asking this very famous question.
What would you do for a Klondike bar?
When the two began working together, they were a bit of an odd couple. Flaherty focused on formal songwriting. Ahrens allowed for a more free-form process.
Part of the writing process is just putting stuff out there. We always start out by saying, this is probably a terrible idea, but. And then you say it, and sometimes it is a terrible idea, but nevertheless it builds into something else.
Over the last 3 decades, the team built a songbook of musicals, including Seussical the Musical, and the 8-time Tony-nominated Once on This Isle. Their song Journey to the Past, sung here by the late R&B singer Aaliyah, was nominated for an Academy Award in 1998. And then there was Ragtime, the musical based off the 1975 novel by E.L. Doctorow, which tells the story of African Americans, upper-class New Yorkers, and Eastern European immigrants melding together at the turn of the century. Ahrens and Flaherty won a Tony Award for the musical's score.
It was really about America becoming itself from all of these different ingredients, and as a composer getting to fully live in the world of Harlem ragtime versus New Rochelle and parlor music, and then creating my own version of the immigrant experience.
To see more from Ahrens and Flaherty, tune into the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Meredith. That's all for this week. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 528, IO Optimum Channel 505, RCN Channel 268, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, Cox Cable Channel 1, Frontier Communications, and on Comcast in the on-demand menu under Premium Channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.